We're going to bring the show that everybody wants to hear about, tryouts. We're going to talk about how the player placement is going to work in place of a physical tryout. We're going to talk about all the ins and outs of how this is going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of the Jimmy and Kyle Show. As always, my esteemed colleague, Jimmy McAllister.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Things are going well. I just saw a Charmin commercial and more toilet paper's on the way. So we could probably do some more toilet paper challenge or whatever you want to use it for. It's a good day here in West Seattle.
Saving the world, one toilet paper rule at a time.
Amen. Amen. You know, with the West Seattle Bridge, you know, we have to air mail it in. So toilet paper's dropping from everywhere. It's a great day.
Yeah. So this week, we're going to bring the show that everybody wants to hear about, tryouts. We're going to talk about how the player placement is going to work in place of a physical tryout. We're going to talk about all the ins and outs of how this is going to work with Jimmy and myself. And we've got 2 guests with us this week. We've got Paige Blomzo, our Seattle United registrar. How's it going, Paige?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Doing well.
And we've got the club's executive director, Mr. Kevin Long. Kevin, what's up?
Hello, hello. It's always sunny in Wallingford.
Got your own little bubble over there.
And you can sit there. That's kind of a cool place to be right now.
Yeah. Before we get started, though, we're going to do our Show Us What You Got segment. And first up, from Go9 Copa, we have Mina Aubrey. All right.
Wow, the flick take up, juggling with the thigh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he catches it on the back and a volley up in the corner of the net. That's awesome. Left-footed. Well. Is she right-footed, Kyle?
She's a right-footed player. She's 10
Wow.
years old as well. So that for a 10-year-old, pretty impressive. Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, man, look at that. Left foot volley. Oh, that's a right foot there.
That's a right foot volley on that one. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And next up, we've got from Go7 ECNL, we've got Evie Howland.
Here we go. Not bad. Holy cow.
Nailed it.
Pretty nice. When you said we had a bucket challenge, I thought she was going to get a haircut like you, Kyle.
No. We can do the bucket challenge where we dump you back in the dunk tank.
Oh, you know what? I've been in worse places.
All right, guys. So today on the show, we're going to talk about tryouts. You know, everybody gets nervous around this time of year, even in a normal year. And this year, obviously, with everything going on, we have moved to what are called player placements. So, Jimmy, let me start with you. First, tell us what player placements are, and tell us why we are doing player placements versus the physical in-person tryouts.
Well, for this year, there will be no tryout. So the word tryout is gone, and it's a player placement. As you know, the coaches and the management watch players throughout the year. This year, with the uncertainty of when we could try out, when we could have gatherings, when fields would be available, I'm on the RCS, which is the Regional Charter Committee, with some fellow directors of coaches from other clubs. We felt that to create some certainty in an uncertain world, we'd have player placement starting in May. That means that we'll place players on teams, and you'll be getting calls from your coaches. The coaching slate will be out this Monday. So you'll be getting calls from coaches, and you'll be asked to join teams. The problem is that we just don't know when we're going to get fields. The other problem is we're not problem, but we're having a meeting with our medical advisory committee, which is run by John Dresner. We're starting to talk about curriculum and what we can do when we join the field. Is it groups of 4? Is it groups of 10? What's the governor gonna allow? So we didn't want to be in a situation where, for example, U10 boys or U12 girls, there's 150 kids standing on the field, all trying out due to social distancing and so on and so forth. So this week, our main agenda is that we'll pick in May, but our main agenda is to get all the coaches together with the directors, go over each roster in detail, and then come up with a curriculum depending on what the governor's going to let us do once we resume play.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note, too, that the May player placements are it's not an arbitrary thing that we just came up with, right? Washington Youth Soccer and yourself being on the RCS committee with 7 other people, I believe, it is a group decision on what is best for the clubs.
Correct. It's a statewide mandate. We're trying to get the clubs up and running, guaranteeing kids spots on teams through the trial or through the placement process. Sorry, I keep going back to that T word, but through the placement process and giving some certainty to the kids that they'll know they'll have a place to play. And like I said before, who's to say field availability? Right now, there's a hospital on shoreline A or B. Secondly, we don't know how many kids will be able or how many players will be able to group at one time. It could be groups of 4. It could be groups of 10. So right now we're in the process of writing new curriculum to fit those potential mandates under the auspices of our medical advisory committee that we've followed religiously all the way through this crisis. If you can remember, we closed down the girls' ECNL going to Idaho early. The other thing, Kyle, is I think you have to know through this placement, there'll be a lot of changes coming up. I just can't see many teams doing the traveling this year that we've done in the past till this thing calms down and we get a grip of it.
Yeah. And there's financial considerations to that, health, travel, safety considerations, all that good stuff.
Oh boy.
And I think that's absolutely the right call.
Yeah, somebody that was a lot more intelligent than I did said you have a medical advisory committee, use it. So we've been very, very lucky to have John Dresler and the medical advisory committee letting us know step by step what steps we should take. And as we get to the point where we're coming back, we will be with the doctors figuring out what is the best for Seattle United. And we're more than happy to share that with the other clubs around the league.
Yeah. I was confused. I thought you said somebody that was smarter than you, so I automatically thought it was me. But I don't think I told you that.
More handsome, maybe, not smarter.
Yeah, definitely. What do families need to do right now? There's obviously a registration deadline. What do we need them to do right now to let us know that they want to be placed on teams?
You need to be registered by the end of this month. You need to be on the sheet. We're going over the sheet daily with the coaches and the directors. We're looking at the numbers. The numbers look very, very encouraging, but you need to be signed up. We don't know that you want to play if you're not registered. So You can register, and Paige can go into that, or Kevin can go into that in a bit, but you just need to sign up. And you know what? You got to sign up and wait for the phone call. And we're going to start picking players 1st of May. So you'll be receiving a call from the coach of your team. And the other thing is that, you could be placed on a team and things change. Kids grow, kids, improve. So, the whole what is left of the summer and the beginning of the season, we'll be looking at players to make sure we've placed them accordingly. It's an ongoing process. And this year, without seeing them, there might be some movement from team to team. So keep that in mind. If you're not placed exactly where you want, we always have the chance to look at players and make those decisions. So it's a tough time, but we want to give some certainty to the kids that they know they'll have a team to come back to.
Yeah. And we'll go into detail a little bit more about that in a little bit.
Sure.
Paige, let me send it over to you. What do families specifically technically need to do right now to get signed up for the player placements? Can you walk us through what they need to do?
It's exactly the same as it's been in years past. Same tryout registration by the age groups. I had set those up and opened them before we started using the player placement terminology. So they are online. It's, call 2020 Seattle United tryout registration specific to your age group on that landing page, on that URL that we use, traditionally. So it's that same process. This year, the club did waive the tryout fee. So there's no fee to sign up. It's free this year. And the directors, you all have asked that returning players get registered by April 30th. Yep. So that's about 10 days away. A little more than 10 days away.
Yeah, that date, April 30th, is the big one for everybody to know. April 30th is the deadline to get on there, because on May 1st is when we're going to start making those offers. So we have to have that in on April 30th. So if you're not tried out, everybody, make sure you're getting.
Right. And there was some confusion in the Seattle United community because you all changed the terminology as it became clear that we couldn't post an on-field tryout this year. So if you've registered for tryouts, you're registered for the placement process. You have no other step to take. And we did put instructions for parents to use to be able to log into their member account in Affinity and verify that they had in fact registered for tryouts.
Yeah. Yeah. And tryout signups are at seattleunited.com. It's called tryout registration on the page, but it is for player placements. So don't get confused by the two. Can you tell families what paperwork they'll need to have on hand when they try out, if any?
Well, there's no tryout, right? So they're not.
Or excuse me,
the
player placement.
Yeah, I mean, they're not coming to the placement. So they absolutely, there is no medical release form required. That will be submitted in paper, as it always is, to the first, once the teams are able to reconvene. So, and we'll communicate that really clearly and give folks lots of reminders that when everybody gets the all clear and they can, gather with their coach for the first time, we'll be sure to remind families that that's the time that you've got to submit your medical release form for the season ahead.
Okay, perfect. So Jimmy, back to you for a second. Now that the people have signed up, we're getting to May 1st. How is the process going to work for returning players to Seattle United?
Well, the process is quite simple. You sign up, you're registered for the placement, and you'll get a call from your coach, and you'll be offered a spot. You'll have so much time to accept your spot like any other year. Obviously, we can't make offers on the field because there is no field at the moment, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but you'll be getting a call, and you'll know what team you're on, and your individual coach will let you know. As I said, the coaching slate will be out well before the player placement, so you'll know who the coaches will be, and it'll be pretty obvious, and you'll get a call from that coach, and we'll move forward. And that's basically it. In that aspect, it's a lot like a physical tryout, but we're just selecting players. And trust me, the coaches and the directors have been going over team after team after team to make sure we have it right. So, you'll be getting a call just like any other year.
Yeah. And I'd venture to guess this is going to take a couple days to get through all the phone calls. So,
absolutely.
Be patient. It's not going to take, a week and a half like years past where we do have a physical tryout. These player placements, we are meeting as age groups with the coaches, the directors, past coach, current coach, if they're changing coaches, and everybody's already started to sit down and do preliminary placements and talk about the players and agree on what movement should take place, if any.
Right.
And
Kyle, I'd like to say that impossible dream, but our dream or our goal is to place every player on a team. Now, there's remainders, and sometimes the numbers don't work out, and we try very, very hard to put teams together and make sure kids play. That is our goal, make sure we get kids on the field this year. So we're going to be very diligent in trying to make sure everybody's got an offer to the best of our ability. That would be our main goal. Get kids playing. That's what this club's all about.
So that timeline, May 1st, is when the phone calls will start.
Correct.
What about for SYSA rec players or players that played in a U.S. club team prior to this year?
Well, they'll be called as well. And generally speaking, those are the younger kids. They'll be called and placed. And again, some groups, if they have large number of kids coming from outside the area, could be put in pools to figure out as we go where they'll fit in the structure, whether they be select, whether they be premier, whatever team they're on. So we're going to get everybody involved. And then, as I said, once we get started, in some of the teams, it'll be a time to make sure we've done it right and everybody are in the right places.
Yeah. And to be clear, those calls will start on May 1st as well.
May 1st.
They're allowed to start on May 1st.
The only calls that will start the 5th of May are calls to kids that have come from an other RCL club, not US club, not, Academy, DA or whatever. Kids from RCL clubs will be called on the 5th of May.
And
Every
that
kid will be on the 5th of May.
That's a date that was set by that RCS committee
By the directors of
and
the
by the
RCS
state
committee.
saying that we can't do that. That's not by choice. It's not what we're choosing to do with Seattle United.
No.
That is the same for every club.
But once a
we're
kid
just
from-
not allowed to call those players.
Once a player, boy or girl from another club, registers, the coaches and directors can talk to that player, but they cannot register that player till May 5th. So it's pretty simple. there's caveats and rules. Like you said, the state, dictates what we can do in these things. So, and I think that's a fair situation. So,
yeah. Okay. Perfect. Kevin, over to you. What other information, with regards to paperwork, maybe financial aid, that is important for families to know right now going into this process?
Sure. Before I go into that, I just wanted to say that, on behalf of the club's board of directors, management, 4 of whom are on this video call, we are hoping that all of our families are staying safe and healthy during these crazy days. So thoughts going out to everybody. And then one other thing I have to mention is, when my agent reached me the other day and said something about a talk show, I was thinking Fallon or Kimmel. I didn't know it was going to be the dregs of the internet with these 2 yahoos.
We're taking their place, Kevin.
Here I am. It's the company I keep. Okay, back to business. So some of these things we're still working through, but I can promise this. We're working on a document now that will lay out in a table fees. So presently, the 2020-2021 program fees are posted to the club's website. You can find those under the registration tab and then click on accepted players. You can find those fees there. But those were approved and posted before this whole pandemic broke. And so we're trying to adjust on the fly. And one of the things we will have to adjust is prorating these fees based on when we actually get onto the field. Jimmy mentioned earlier about our placement plan. Part of that plan incorporates a maintenance fee, which is a fee lower than what our families would pay in a normal year. Normally, when a child registers after they receive an offer, they are expected to put down a 20% payment. We call it a commitment fee. That's the basic amount. Some families choose to pay in full. Others opt into various payment plans. Those things will still be an option, but they will happen down the road. What we're doing in the interim, that is from the placement time to when we actually get back to the soccer field, is something we are calling a maintenance fee, and it will be a somewhat nominal amount, maybe $80 or thereabouts. We're still working on that, but it will bridge the time between the offer and acceptance, and then when we get back to the field. It will be a monthly fee. So let's say, for example, we don't get back to the pitch until July 1st. The people that accept the offer, registered, they offered, they sign up, their parents will pay, we'll go with $80, an $80 maintenance fee that per month for the 2 months, it would be May and June, to bridge the time. That pays for secures the child's roster spot, but will also include various content, some of which you've seen for the past month or more on our Instagram page and elsewhere. And Jimmy might go into that in a minute. I'm not sure, but I'm just trying to give our members a sense that we are thinking through these things. The plan will be unveiled in early May, shortly after the placements start.
Yeah. So when you go online and you see that chart under the accepted players, that is typically what you'd see for a full year. So don't be fooled when you see that, families. That is what a full year cost would be. That is not what the cost is going to be right now. Those were laid out obviously before this happened. Correct. So Jimmy, you want to talk a little bit about what they will get on this maintenance fee during these months when we're not able to return to the field?
Well, to be quite honest with you, our contracts are up. The coaches' contracts are up April 30th. So all the coaches are going to sign a content contract which will lay out what they'll need to do. A couple Zoom sessions a week, parent meeting once a month, so on and so forth, to make sure that we keep engaged with the kids. Our goal and our idea is to make it as affordable as possible, to get the kids a place. As Kevin said, it's a placeholder, but also a content situation. All the coaches will be involved. They'll sign a new contract. Your individual coach will be available to have Zoom meetings, to work on, training methods, so on and so forth during this time. And we're trying to make it where it's affordable for our families. That money brought in will help essential services. It'll help pay for office staff. It'll help pay for, rent, things like that, that obviously a nonprofit like us incur. I think it's important that we're a community asset. Financial aid will still be available. We have a great office staff and Michelle Autier that takes care of the financial aid and Paige. So that's still available to all our families. We're a nonprofit. Our goal, again, and our mandate is to get kids playing soccer. So the best way we can figure out to do that, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Yeah, and the content will be basically, instead of having physical training sessions, you'll have Zoom meetings with your team. Those may be tactical sessions. They may be at home, technical sessions. There will be other little fun sessions that they do. Plus, you're still getting the homework that we send out every week. You're still getting the other content that we're sending out every week. So you'd actually be getting a little bit more than even what you're getting right now. That way we can fill those times, fill those gaps for everybody until we can return to
Kyle, during these times for kids, not to be able to play with your friends, not necessarily soccer, but anything, it's got to be a real traumatic situation.
Sure.
Even a scavenger hunt where the kids get together and look for a piece of pink string or a sock with a hole in it, whatever. It gets them engaged. It gets them back with their friends, and it gives them something to look forward to.
Tell them to look for a sock with a hole in it. They might all be at your house pretty soon, Jimmy.
Boy, I'm taking it today.
So let me ask you this then, kind of backtracking a little bit. How are the offers going to be made? We know they're going to be made May 1st for Seattle United returning players, for SYSA players, for U.S. club players, and May 5th for outside RCL players. How will those offers be made? Are they going to be made phone call, email?
You're going to get a phone call. You're going to get a phone call. It's been our culture that we call. We talk to people. I don't like seeing who's made what on the internet. I don't care for that. I mean, we've all been in a situation where we haven't made something we've wanted to make, and I'd rather have somebody be able to talk to me and tell me why I'm on the team or why am I, it's just personal for me. We're not going to do the internet thing. Everybody's going to get a call, and that takes time. Be patient, don't panic. But I feel that's the best way to go. It's just a personal touch for me.
Yeah. So everybody, please go into your Affinity accounts. Make sure your phone numbers are correct, because that's typically the problem we end up having sometimes getting a hold of parents is maybe the phone number was just entered quickly, entered incorrectly. So make sure that your phone numbers are correct in Affinity.
That's a good point, Kyle. And I think we'll probably send a reminder that includes instructions, because it's not always obvious for families on their member account page where to change those phone numbers. So families should look for that email probably by the middle of next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Jimmy, let's backtrack a little bit to when we were talking about players that they get placed maybe on a team that they were on last year, but they were really hoping to make a team above. Tell everybody how we're going to handle those situations. So you've got a player that, he was on a Tango team maybe and was really hoping to play Copa this year, or was on a regional blue team, really hoping to make a Samba team, whatnot. What are we going to do for those kids that were placed on those teams that they were on last year that want more, than what they were placed on?
Well, depending on the age, Kyle, I think it's important that when players accept an offer, they let their coach know what their ambitions are. I mean, we can say everybody on a certain team wants to move up, but some are more than comfortable with their friends and the situation. And hey, they've got a really good central midfielder, but I'm on this team and I get to play central midfield all the time. But let a if you don't feel that you're being looked at properly or the right, and directors can take a look at the players. I mean, it's our job to make sure that we constantly evaluate the player pool. Just because you make something doesn't mean you're there for the whole year or 2 years or whatever. If we don't know, it's kind of impossible to look at, so we need to know that the players would rather be on a different team for whatever reason, and then let us look. You might not always get what you want, that's for sure, but we can certainly evaluate that. And I've had calls in the past, even with the regular tryout situation. Again, you have to remember, U12 girls, U10 boys, 140 kids. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. I mean, there's going to be mistakes out there. And, when you try out in a small space, well, my kid's a world-class 100-yard sprinter. Well, we only have 40 yards of space to try out. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Let us know and let us evaluate the players. And like I said, if we make mistakes, then we should be able to be honest enough to change those.
Yeah, and kind of the talk between myself, Rich Reese, the girls director, Alex Chersky, the boys ECNL director, has been that the first month that we get back to training and we are able to, we are going to basically talk about those players and have those players come out to those teams that they're hoping to make so they can be evaluated. And then at that point, they'll be able to get physically in front of a coach with the other players, show what they're able to do, and then we can go from there. But I think it is important that as well, when that offer is made at placement time on May 1st, May 2nd, whatever it may be, to have an answer ready and to have any questions ready for your coach. We will try to give those players every look possible when we return, but have an answer ready on if you'd like to do this or not. It is important because it's a trickle-down effect a little bit, but we will do everything we can. So don't let that be a hang-up as we go through this player placement process. Because like Jimmy said, not everything's perfect. It's not perfect every time. We have sat down and talked about these players ad nauseum and gone over the pros and cons of every player and how they fit within a team and all those things. What's the best thing for those players as individuals? And that will be the placements that come out on May 1st. But when you get that call, make sure that you understand that. And if you want to play, like Jimmy said, at a higher level, let us know that, and we will do what we can to make those opportunities happen when we return.
And I just want this is a topic for every year, not in terms of player placement, but I don't like to hear that, well, we didn't want to talk to you, Jimmy, because you would do something to my child or put the child down or be upset. That's an excuse. For me, depending on the age, the kid should be able to arbitrate for themselves. And at the younger ages, I get it. A parent needs to be involved, but I hate to hear that we didn't want you to be angry with us for disagreeing with placement. That's our job. That's what Rich Reese, that's what Alex, that's what Kyle Rodiver, that's what Jimmy McAllister's paid to do, is get it right. And like I said, I can be honest enough to say we don't always get it right. And again, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And we've seen some kids do some fantastic stuff out of this club that didn't start on the first team. And that's a fact. That's not me trying to beat up the audience or anything else. That's a fact. So be honest. And I think we're big enough to ask the questions and make sure that your child, which is the most important thing in your world, is getting what they need to develop. That's it.
Yeah. So Paige, let's imagine we've gone through the player placements. Offers have been made to the families. They've accepted an offer. What do the families need to do as soon as they've accepted their offer?
I mean, like every year, families, from the time they accept, they have 10 days to register. So it is the same this year. It is online registration. Kevin spoke to the maintenance fee, if you will, the placement fee that will follow until the kids can return to soccer, full time. And that will be available to families at checkout. It will be one of the automated payment plans will show that amount when it's decided upon for your May payment or for their May payment or their June payment. And however, long we have to go on that maintenance fee program. But again, I think one of the things that club leadership has been so great about is, saying that, the more things have changed, the more they have remained the same. And our club policy is pretty strong. And I think most families understand that it is that 10-day period. It's really important because it does hold your child's spot. By registering every year, you are saying yes to Seattle United. It is the way that you accept a spot on the team. And so same as usual, registration online. And like I said, for families that want to opt into that maintenance fee, it will be obvious and available at checkout as an automated payment plan.
Right. And financial aid is still going to be available. What is the deadline for those financial aid families to apply for?
I just wanted to backtrack, if I could, just for a second, because I thought of two questions that families would probably like to know the answer to. How many days do we think it will take to contact all the kids in the club? And second question, if a player that's presently in the club is not contacted for whatever reason, who do we direct them to? And then I'll go into financial aid after you guys answer.
So as far as if a player is not contacted, have them email myself. If it's a boys player, if it's a girls player, Richard Reese. If it's an ECNL boys player, Alex Chersky. And we'll make sure that we get a hold of them. Typically, that means that the phone number was entered in correctly into the system, because that's all we have to go off of is the phone number that's on those registration sheets.
And I might add, Kyle, that and to answer your question, Kevin, we only allow most coaches, if not all coaches, to coach 2 teams. So they're not calling, 4 teams worth of kids. So I expect the process to be pretty quick and pretty efficient. They're going to know who they're going to need to call. It'll be organized before time, and it should be pretty systematic. So I can't see it taking much longer than a couple days if the criteria or if the information on the sign up is correct. If it's not the dad's cell phone you got rid of a year ago, or dad's work number and he's not going into work, or mom's something, we need to make sure that the information is correct so we can contact the kids.
Right. Perfect.
And remember, most of these kids, and I would say most, I won't give a percentage, but most of these kids currently play in our club today. They should be involved with their team in Zoom or whatever else. So they're all players already. So that's easier. The one thing this has cut back on a bit is, players coming from all over, because it's not a traditional tryout. It's more of a placement. So we don't have as many kids from outside the club as we would in the normal year.
Right. Perfect. Financial aid. So financial aid is open right now. There are 2 documents. There is an overview of the application process, and there is the application itself. Both documents can be found on the club website. If you are on the home page, go to the registration tab, click on financial aid, and the 2 documents are there. The process, even though the world's been largely turned upside down, like Paige was saying just a minute ago, our process and policies are solid and they're in place, and we're not really deviating from those for financial aid. The application window closes June 1st, so there's another 6 weeks out. Of course, players won't know where they stand until they get the phone call, but assuming the majority of our players are coming back, I would encourage them to get the process started now if they feel like that they would qualify. The qualification information is included on the overview, as well as what documents need to be provided to the club. Year in and year out, our financial aid gold standard is the free and reduced lunch letter. So if a child has that, they are generally going to get aid. But anyone can contact the office. They can contact me, executive director at seattleunited.com, if they have any questions, and we're happy to field those at their leisure.
Perfect.
Hey, Kevin, can I jump in here?
Please.
Kyle, I think it's important that, we let our families know the open house nights that we offer, that I co-host with Michelle. those are well attended, particularly the ones that we have a couple in June to help to assist families with that financial aid process. And obviously with the restrictions based on COVID, we can't have those. We're not sure how we can have those this year. And we've had them as, 6 or 8 hour open houses. And it might be because of restrictions on, gathering or social distancing that we have to set up some sort of appointment window for families. And, we're only maybe able to we give families a 15-minute slot or some such, but we will, I will work with Kevin and Michelle on that, and we'll make sure it's communicated really clearly as soon as, we understand when the governor is going to allow, us to reopen, so to speak, and meet in person. And there are those families that really do need that in-person assistance. And I think that I can speak for Kevin and Michelle in saying that, we will be flexible with a deadline for those families.
Correct. Good point.
Perfect. So, Jimmy, I want to switch gears here for a second, and because some big news came out, obviously, this past week. The termination of the U.S. Soccer Development Academy. Parents have been asking, how does that affect my player? How does it affect us? What does it do to the ecosystem? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I was involved in the first year of the Development Academy, I believe in 2007 with Washington Premier. And one of the hardest things was always how do you sort it out with who's not playing high school? To be honest with you, in our little neck of the woods, there was Crossfire in the Boys Academy, Seattle Sounders in the Boys Academy, and then the Seattle Reign in the Girls Academy. Bernie James at Crossfire had already elected to go back to the ECNL before the Academy even pulled the plug. The Sounders are in the process of starting an MLS league for the kids. So they'll be staying where they're at. Bernie's Development Academy, Bernie James' Development Academy will come back into the ECNL. And the question about players will be the Seattle Reign and the girls' side of the docket. Very, very difficult on the girls' side because of the travel and the only one team being in Washington and the cost effectiveness of playing there. I would think that, without knowing anything about what they're looking to do, there might be some young ladies looking to come back to the ECNL or what have you. But I don't think it'll have a huge effect in this market. I know the Southern California teams on the boys' side all dropped out of the academy before the academy even pulled the plug, before United States Soccer pulled the plug. So I think it was pretty much expected that this would happen. I think on the girls' side, the good news is, if there's any good news with a league folding or whatever else, is that the girls will most likely have the opportunity and the possibility to play high school soccer. And, I played professional for 14 years. I played a lot of different places. I coached in a lot of different places. One of the most rewarding experiences I had was for 4 years coaching a local high school side. It was fantastic. It was school spirit. The kids got their name in the paper. Yeah. For playing for their high school. They get to compete for a state championship. Those are big things, because when we play at a high level in soccer, sometimes you go back to school and you could score the winning goal in the national championship in Colorado. You come back to school on Monday and nobody knows that you even played. So I think from the social aspect, I think the high school thing will be good. I'm sure the Sounders, who are a great partner of ours, are already down the road in what they want to do in the MLS deal. And for the ECNL, it's wonderful. They got back another great team, and the Crossfire already left the ECNL or the VA last year. So I think it strengthens the ECNL league. I think it's great for our club.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add on the player placement procedures and processes, and anything else we want families to know?
Well, I do. I just think they, like anything else through this pandemic, we need to be patient. My goal is to try to, like I said, get everybody a place to play. Secondly, these are real uncertain times. I've never quite gone through anything like this, and I think everybody's in the same boat. But we try to get some certainty. We are, like I said, we are working with our medical advisory committee to figure out what training looks like on the other side of this. So it's not just old soccer guys like me coming up with things. We're working with our local doctor, John Dresner, who has been incredibly helpful during this pandemic and giving us advice on what we should do. And I thank, the University of Washington for being so great, and the UW Medical. I just think that we're going to try to do this smart. We're going to try to do it the right way, and the kids' safety is our number one priority. So we're not going to get up and going until we have a pretty good plan of how we're going to attack this. So be patient. We want to get back on the field. Trust me. I've been sitting here for, I don't know, however long, but I'm ready to go, and I'm sure everybody else is ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you guys can find tryout information on our website. Player placement information, it is www.seattleunited.com. There's a tryout tab. Click on that, and then you can find your age group and register from there. And remember, those are the same things as the player placements, so don't be confused between the two. Paige, Kevin, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys all next week.
Great. Take care.
Okay.